My man, it is chilly in town.
It is chilly, and Wonderground says today's temperature is forecasted to be much cooler, in all caps, than yesterday. And it is. It is brisk. We just had a storm roll through. The rain is gone. The cool temps have arrived. Perfect timing, as today is, I believe, the first day of fall. It's right on time. It is cool, crisp. We're both in pants, but I'm in a long sleeve shirt, and you accused me of trying to freeze you out this morning when you walked in the hub. I had the garage doors open. It's race week, and it's cool outside. It feels brisk. It feels like college football season, and it doesn't feel like the usual Ironman Chattanooga weekend, at least for those of you that anticipated it being hot. I predicted pretty confidently that it would be in the 70s and the 50s, and I'll be riding that prediction wave for the next 6 years.
1 for 8.
That's true, dude. Listen, I'm like it's typical for like a weatherman. Like you make or people that like pick upsets in professional sports. Like you might pick one, but for the losses you've had, it's all about you just remember the wins, baby. You just remember the wins. If you predict enough and predict often, like I do, you're wrong probably 90% of the time, but sometimes you're right, and when you're right.
That's just like when I worked. So good. Yeah, just like when I worked at the news station, the weather they'd get it wrong left and right for weeks on end, and then we'd have like tornadoes, and they'd stay on air for like 3 straight days, and just rub it in how right they were.
Saw it coming, totally saw it coming. Now the last 45 days we've gotten it all wrong. You know what, stuff happens, but today we got it. We're on it. It is September 22nd. It is race week here in Chattanooga. The year is 2021. Welcome aboard, folks. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, and we are episode 515.
Yeah, 515.
515.
2021. The date is in there in case someday this comes up in a time capsule.
someday it might pop up.
100 years from now.
Listen, I like people to know, like, because people listen to these, obviously not in order, and people, just now tuning in and picking up our podcast, and they probably, pick and choose what they listen to. I think it's a good idea for them to know, okay, that was in September, that was in June. I can kind of get the vibe. I kind of understand where these guys are coming from. And if you are one of those first-time listeners, we appreciate you tuning in. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general, so we know your time is valuable, so we appreciate you giving some of that time to us today. We cover it all. We cover swim, bike, run detailed podcasts. We cover triathlon. We cover life. We cover everything in between. We'll do race recaps. We'll do, like today, race previews. We'll have on a very, very, very rare guest. For the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, have been doing this for a very long time. Just trying to have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through, both in life and in training, including the races that we have coming up. Oftentimes, we'll use the athletes that we work with. We work with a wide variety of athletes, from beginners to high-level athletes across the globe. We'll use the kind of the pulse of what they're going through, and that also goes. It also rings true for our Facebook community, which is Crushing Iron Group. If you want to be a part of that conversation, search that, answer one simple question. We'll let you right in. And we will sometimes go in there and do Q&As, but that's it. We have no sponsors, we have no ads, but our only agenda is to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, we're just coaching and building communities, man.
Building community, baby.
Good people, and we're going to have a lot of them around this weekend.
A lot. We had 50 plus athletes on our team coming in this weekend. We know just from our closed group, we got racing. Quite a few coming in. We had Ironman Chattanooga camp earlier this year, which is another 20 people that are coming in. We hope all of you come. Seriously, if you did that camp, any of you, if you listen to the podcast and you want to swing by the hub and please come say hi, introduce yourself. And especially if you came to that training camp and we got to be a very, very small part of your journey, come by and say hi. We look forward to seeing you and rooting for you on race day. And seeing how antsy you are and anxious you are. But our hub will be open. Come see us on Friday. It'll be pretty much wide open house from 1 to 5. So come in, say hi. We'll have Normatec booths set up, probably some coffee on the pot. And then also we'll have cornhole set up out back. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. The garage doors will be open. And then from 7:30 to 8, we've got a function here hosted by Ironman on Friday. And then I think from 8 to 9:30 or 8:30 to 9:30. There's kind of an open house for athletes that are looking to do fulls and kind of get more information on that, because it is a very daunting sport with a lot going on. So come by and see us on Friday. Saturday we'll kind of be in and out. It's the day before the race. So, but yeah, come see us, say hi, introduce yourself. Mike and I we don't do sponsors or ads on this podcast, so it's not a direct revenue driver for us. We do it because we love it. And what drives us generally is the fact that we love what we do. We love triathlon. We love helping people. We love, talking through things together as we always have. And then, it's always reassuring and very gratifying when we get, emails or texts or thank yous from our listeners that we've helped in even just a small way. And so it really is fun and awesome to meet you guys in person. And you guys like to thank us, but we, at the same time, like to thank you, because you guys drive a lot what we do. So come by, say hi. If you're gonna talk for a while, talk to me. Mike's racing. He's usually the chit-chatty person of us both, but he's probably going to be in race mode. So I've been soaking up and really building up my reserve tank of extrovertness for this weekend to carry the squad. So I will be here. I'll be ready. And I got a haircut for any selfies I might have to take.
I'm fine, man.
You seem much cooler than you did Monday. Monday, I sensed a little, not nerves, but anxious anticipation for the race to get going. And today you seem as cool as a cucumber.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And why is that?
I don't know. I got a shoulder niggle. My knee hurts. My ankle's kind of. No. I don't know, man. I
Hayes
think
in the Barno.
Yeah, Hayes in El Barno. I just I don't know. I was thinking about, I feel like I'm that type of, I don't know, maybe a lot of people are this way, but like as I think about the race a lot more, I feel like a week or two beforehand. And then when it starts coming in and things start happening and it's a little different because we are in the city that I'm going to be racing in. But normally I would probably be on the road today. And then once you get into the neighborhood of the race, and things start, like Ironman's downtown setting up now, and you posted those pictures, and once, that kind of starts happening, everybody's kind of coming in town and everybody's in it together, and you see other people. Before the race, you kind of tend to get a mystery in your head and you start creating pictures of like, all these, people that are fit like pros, and then you just kind of start seeing normal people walk into the world and they're just going to go do the race like you are. And I was thinking about that last night. I went on a Facebook Live thing. I might keep doing that the next couple of days just because it's kind of cool. But I got to race. I just got to be who I am, man. I think that's the thing we can do is put the pressure on ourselves to sort of, look back on 3 weeks ago and you had one just blistering day and you just felt amazing. And then you set that as your sort of like template for how you want to race. And I just, we talk about systems checks a lot, and that's the way I'm looking at this race where, I feel like I've done pretty good work for this race, but I'm not going to make really any decisions until I get in that water and then until I get on that bike, until I get on that run, and I'm just going to see how things feel. And, if it feels good, then you go a little bit, and if it doesn't, you got to figure it out. But the pressure end of it is starting to fade away. Although, like being on the podcast, and I know you've experienced this where you don't want to think like it's a big deal, but you don't want, you want to kind of show out a little bit because people are watching, I think.
You don't want to suck.
Yeah, I don't want to suck, so I'm just trying to, I think, being excited about it and being kind of anxious in a good way to actually race again is where my head's at. And I'm not really I'm trying not to think too much about how it's going to go because it's just going to go how it's going to go,
It'll be what it will be. And I've been excited this week now that the weather's turned and the rain is gone and it's cooling down some. I was going over the bridge, checking things out this morning and went down to the race site just to kind of double check. A lot of people have been freaking out because there's been flood warnings and things. The river is not high. It is like, it looks normal. But I went down there. They're already setting up. They already got the gates up and barriers getting ready for transition. They got the road already blocked off right there on Chestnut and Market. I mean, they are ready to rock. And it is super exciting. It is very, very, very exciting. But it is kind of weird. It's exciting yet weird, like you said, to have it in your hometown. Like I think a lot of athletes, which is different when you live here, because I think a lot of people are super anxious and super nervous because to me, there's two different things. There's the event itself and then the race itself. The race obviously doesn't start till Sunday, but I always get a feeling from the athletes that we work with, and when they start to travel, they start to calm down once they reach the event. Like the moment they set foot on the turf they're going to race in, they kind of get calm. Like their energy they're like, finally, it's here. Like they're done with work, they're done with responsibilities. it's kind of like a mini vacation. Like you have a lot of athletes say, like, I'm just ready to go out and get away from life and get away from work and get away from, maybe even stuff at home. And, God bless our kids, but, get away from the kids and like just get away. Right. And see your people that are on your team, like see people within the community. And it's a huge uplifting experience. I think once you kind of hit the ground, and that's when I think that's when the good vibes start happening, is you're like, God, this is going to happen. And then you walk downtown, you walk through the finish line, you see the things kind of being erected, and you're like, I'm going to cross that line. Like, that's the one. Like, that's the one I've been envisioning. I've been, thinking about what I've been training and getting up early. This is it. I'm here, and this is going to happen on Sunday. And I think once people kind of hit the ground and get that feeling and they get checked in, they're like, all right, it's the realness of it sets in. And for a lot of people, I think that's when the positivity and the gratitude kind of starts to flow, because you kind of recognize that it's all done. Now it's just kind of the rehearsal dinner, and before the ceremony, you're like, let's just have some fun. It's all done. The stress should be gone. Relax, see the people you love, get ready to have some fun in a great city and a great course. And honestly, like, that's the time to start kind of going through to kind of like really start to soak in like that attitude of gratitude of like just how thankful you should be to be ready to do this, and that you can do this. Like, that's the biggest thing. I think sometimes we forget. Both you and I have been doing this for a very long time. I always try to remember just how grateful I should feel that I can even attempt to accomplish something of that magnitude that most people are just in awe of. That you just don't have. Like, I went and got my hair cut at my usual spot, Frankie and Johnny's, that's on the race course, right across the street from the Daily Ration. We're having our breakfast on Saturday. I got on there and said, Frankie, I said, you guys open on Sunday? She said, no, we're closed. She has no idea what I do for a living. Of course, my family doesn't either. And I was like, she goes, yeah. These crazy people are coming in town. They're doing I said, will it impact you at all on Saturday? And she's like, nah, they come around for their practice laps on Saturday, but it doesn't interfere with this too much. She was like, it just blows my mind. I didn't say anything. I just kind of listened to her talking, but other people think that, we are in the sports and we have these high expectations because we know we can do these things. But I always say, like, if you're nervous or if you're anxious or you're having a lot of doubt, just make a checklist and like all the things you should be grateful for and you should be positive about. And that kind of, to me, relieves all the stress of being able to race. But it's going to be a beautiful day and a beautiful course. And I think that's what, speaking of beautiful course, I think that's what our podcast is for, like a little course preview for everyone coming into town. Hey, swim easy, bike your potential, run like hell. I mean, that's really much, and we'll see you on Saturday.
All right,
wrap it up. No, it is a awesome course, but I think it's got a lot of things that are different. And we touch on some of these, and we'll start with the swim. I fully anticipate it being wetsuit legal. I'd put money on it. I put a hunch on it. I'll put a honey on it being wetsuit legal. It is not going to get above, I think, like 72 or 73 up until race day lows in the high 40s. The rain has basically pushed all the warmer water out. I think last time they checked, they said it was in the mid 70s. Dude, it's going to be like 73, 74 by the time race day comes around. So I wouldn't, if that's something you haven't anticipated or haven't packed yet and you're packing or getting ready to go, bring your wetsuit. It by no means that you have to race in it, but I would fully anticipate it being legal. So for those of you that are kind of excited about it being legal, definitely bring it. If you got a swim skin, bring it. But they do shuttles race morning, which I was very happy to hear, because they didn't have the shuttle service for the 70.3 this year. It was just a very, very, very long walk, and it took them a extended amount of time to get people in the water. You'll take the shuttle bus to the up the river, and you'll get up in line. You'll do the same as usual for all the races. Now that's all basically time trial starts. What's that picture? I can't see.
Arc.
That's cool. It's the other. When is that?
This morning.
I don't know if I believe that.
It's sent from David, a friend of ours, or an athlete.
I don't know. That's not from the river. That's just from the amount of rain that we've gotten. Because the river on the other side isn't even up on the paddleboard side. Wow. But and we've had that in our neighborhood. Mike was just going through some pictures and of water and stuff. What?
He's bullshitting.
Is he?
From 2 years ago.
See, that's why you don't trust people, man. He also likes Clumpy, so you shouldn't even trust the guy anyway. But in terms of the swim, again, anticipate it being wetsuit legal. If you're not comfortable in wetsuit, don't wear it. You'll take shuttle buses to the front. You're going to jump in the water. Listen, like, seed yourself appropriately. But if you're scared, and this is a big thing for me as a coach too. Like, I tell people to just get in the water and just get the party started, because I know a lot of people like to wait a certain amount of time to get in the water.
Like me.
But like you. But I also think for a lot of people that only raises their level of anxiety. Like, because the longer you have to sit and longer you have to think about it, in my opinion, like, your anxiety just goes up. But to me, in my opinion, it doesn't make you any calmer to sit there and watch and wait. And he's like, I got to do this. I got to do this. And just do it. Like, rip the Band-Aid off. Let's get to work. I can understand not wanting the contact and whatever, but it's a downstream swim where 4 or 5 people get in the water at the same time. Like, get the party started, because I honestly believe, like, and when I track athletes, like, hey, I'm going to take my time to get in the water. The longer I have to wait for my tracker to go off that they've actually started the swim, the more honestly worried I get as a coach that they're letting their anxiety get worked up, and they're in their head. They're thinking, because all week long, you know what people are saying? Just get me in the water. Just get me in the water. Just let's just get the party started. So you get up on race day and you wait 45, 50 minutes to get in the water. Get your ass in the water and get to work, because it's just going to raise your anxiety level, in my opinion.
No, and I do agree with that. My thing is, I don't like to say I'm going to start right at the beginning or whatever. I just sort of, when I get there, for me, it's about being loose and being just sort of warmed up or whatever and feeling ready. And I don't
emptying your tank.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't, I don't know. I just want to make that kind of, a big part of that decision when I'm there. If I get there, depending, like, because if I get there, 10 minutes later and I think I should, I just don't want to rush.
You don't rush, sure.
Yeah, I don't want to rush, so.
You might be ready to get in the water because you might be cold.
I might be there early and I might be ready to roll. I might get in early. Cause I agree with you, though, that rip the Band-Aid thing off, it's totally,
just
but you
get
got
in the
I call
water.
it walk the plank, man.
Yes, exactly.
There's nowhere else to go. You might as well just go in.
Yep.
And
you never see a kid get on the diving board that waits, get more calm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's what you see on race day. You see the parent have to get up on the backside and like walk to the end, like, all right, listen, you're either going to jump or I'm going to push you, or we're going to get off the high dive. Yep. Like, the longer they wait, the more calm they don't get. And that's so much like adults who, I just want to wait. I'm like, go. Like, do not pause. Just get in the water. Obviously, there is no need to rush, which I think removes so much of like the pre-race morning kind of angst. It's like, I got my wave starts at 7:30. I got to be there right at 7:30. Listen, you can kind of start when you want to start. Like, you don't have to rush at all. I mean, we saw how kind of laissez people were on a Chattanooga 3. We were spectating, and literally 4 guys came in running down the finish ramp, and to start, and people were already in the water, and they're like, no, guys, like, this is the finisher ramp, not the start. And they had another mile to basically run the start, and I'm like, that's the kind of panic you don't want. But even then, they were on time, like, they weren't late. So I think having the rolling start, it does have that benefit, because you don't have to rush to be in the water on time. But again, like, get in the water. I said this on our Zoom yesterday. If you want to really like be a good judge of how fast, because listen, everybody is going to stare at the current on Saturday and on Sunday morning to kind of see like how fast is it moving. And even still, you see, it looks like it's moving backwards. I think we might be swimming, it's not going to be moving backwards. Okay. If you want, don't look at the water. Okay. If you're trying to figure out the flow of the river, don't look at the water. Look at the support crew. Look at the kayaks. Look at the boats. If the kayak people are having to paddle to stay in place, you're welcome. City of Chattanooga, TVA, thank you, Time and Bonds, has brought you a nice current for race day. Mm-hmm. If, like the 70.3 at the exit, we were looking at the kayakers and the kayak support, and they had their hands crossed and their kayak kind of just like sitting up on top of, their kayak, well, it's not going to be as much of a current, but you're still going to get it. And that's how you kind of know how much current you're going to get, is how hard they're having to work to kind of stay in place. Don't try and look at the water, because it's going to be a lot more difficult to gauge that way. And then the other big thing you see a lot of people talk about is with a kind of a river swim. You always tell people, oh, well, if you swim in the middle of the river, you're going to get the fastest current, because the current is always faster in the middle of a river because it's deeper. The more you get to the sides, the slower the current is. But the way they have the buoys set up, like, in my opinion, don't veer purposefully to the middle of the river because you think you might just get a little bit of extra push. In my opinion, the buoys are already kind of fairly close to the middle of the river the way they're set up anyway. So listen, the fastest, your fastest time is more likely to be the straightest shot from point A to point B, not any kind of veering up course or where you're kind of like using the bridges or the support beams and bridges to kind of like eyeball it. Straight shot, baby. Stick with the buoys. Don't stress out too much, because you and I used to do the same thing in Louisville. Yeah. I would always like either hug the buoys or stay honestly like right inside the buoy line, because it all curves to the left bank, right? So the further you go out, the further you're going to swim. I don't think it's worth it, in my experience, to veer on out to the right to try and get a little bit of extra push. You're going to swim probably 2.6 versus swimming 2.4.
Yeah, and who knows how straight you're swimming out there when you're not looking at buoys and you're kind of trying to. But here's another thing I thought about. Like if you have that anxious feeling and you kind of you're not ready or whatever, and you keep holding back. The thing about it is just if you're going to wait, it might be worth just waiting in the water, like jumping in and actually spending a minute or two to kind of get your bearings about you and then starting, because I think that's big. That shock, that acclimation kind of thing that you figure out when you get in the water. I mean, not saying just sit there and float, but just like kind of breaststroke or like just get your bearings for a minute or something in the water. And I think that'll take away a ton of anxiety. I mean, it's just sort of like warming up, and it's the next phase of warming up or something like that. I mean, the water will kind of carry you a little bit anyway.
It'll 100%.
Just take it super easy for the first 5 minutes or whatever. It's not like, if that's your situation.
Exactly, right. If you're a person who finds yourself getting hypoxic and anxious and tight-chested and really short of breath, and you know that about yourself. And I've told people this, athletes that I work with that still kind of like, they can be insanely fast in the pool, but something happens, they get in open water, and they just kind of always have this, like, I've told them, listen, this is the best course for that. Jump in the water and breaststroke for a minute. You're going to be moving downstream anyway. Okay, you're going to have a wetsuit on just to get acclimated, get your breath, get a nice little warm up. Don't just shove your face in the water and kind of have that immediate feeling of, okay, I got to breathe. Okay, this, and your heart rate's already going, and then you have to stop and not just breaststroke, but you have to like stop and tread water, hold on to a kayak. Like, know yourself and it's a great point, and just know your past. Basically, like, what's your MO? Is your MO to stop after 200 meters and have not just a breaststroke, but to basically stop and tread water and hold on to a kayak and kind of get your bearing? If that is you, get in the water, breaststroke, you're still moving downstream, and take your time to get through, and just be calm and get your breath, and just honestly, before you even get in the water, focus on breathing, calming yourself down, not panicking, because most people panic before their foot even hits the water.
I agree. I mean, I talked, but it was like when we used to do the mass start at Wisconsin, I get in the water like 15, 20 minutes
Best part
early.
About it.
Oh
so
my
much
God,
safer, dude.
Tread water for 15 minutes, and I was just ready. I never felt any like anxiety up there. And I've had a lot of it in the past.
Best swim start, and safest start is that, where you're able to get in the water like we were at Wisconsin. We tread water. You and I talked for a little bit. You're able to do some warm-up strokes and like get loose. You can seed yourself far up in the line or front back line.
Scene. You're just floating around on your back and having fun.
And it is. So you don't get to do that. So take your time. Do what you need to do, and just get ready. The other thing that I think you might not think about is, even though I still wouldn't put your wetsuit on super early. A lot of you are going to want to put your wetsuit on no matter what, because it might be chilly. It might be like low 50s. But don't, again, we mentioned this on Monday. Don't so much pay just attention to the temp. Also pay attention to the humidity. I think the humidity will still be in like the 80s from what I saw, which is still fairly high. It'll drop, but be aware. Take the swim easy. Like, there's like long and strong strokes. That is the number one thing. Long, strong, purposeful strokes. There is no reason to, swimming downstream is a lot like you and I talk about. Like, people try to hammer down hills. They go easy up a hill on the bike, and then they try to hammer the downhill. They're putting out so much power to go maybe like 0.1 mile an hour faster, when they could probably just stop pedaling altogether and go just as fast. That is very much downstream swimming. Like, you don't need a huge high arm turnover like you would going upstream. You need long, strong, purposeful stroke. Get all the water you can with each and every long stroke. Stay aerobic, not anaerobic, stay aerobic. Let the current do the work. Let the water do the work. Be calm. Any kind of extra effort is not going to get you the same return on investment as it would in regular open water or choppy choppy conditions. Like, especially if the current is rocking and rolling, dude, take the swim zone 1. You and I talked about this earlier this week off the air. Is like, if the current is flowing, swim zone 1, because you're probably still going to PR, take some time off of it. And you really want to come out of the water feeling like you just got wet for 50 minutes or an hour for basically no reason except to get on the bike and be cold.
Yeah.
Transition, I would say it's average. It's a lot shorter than Wisconsin's. I can tell you that just from watching it. You'll get up on the concrete, run down the side of the river, then you go up a ramp that they've created into, in my opinion, Wisconsin's a great layout too, because they have the parking deck, but a very gigantic transition area that's in the parking lot they have. And grab your bike and head on out on the bike course.
I do have a question about, because I don't even know it really, but maybe you know, because we grab our bags right on our own this time probably, and then change, and you just leave your bag at the bike and they pick it up. How does that work?
I'm sure I would imagine you probably leave it at your bike and then you just go back later on today and get it.
Yeah, because it seems like at Wisconsin I saw a bunch of bags in a new pile at the end of the day, like bike bags and stuff. So I don't know if they go around and just collect them while you're out on the bike.
No, they could probably keep transition area clean and you know. But you know what? Listen, at the end of the race, you don't care if you see it anyway. You're like, I'll just buy new ones on Amazon. I'll be fine. Like,
I know.
Who cares?
But
who cares? Who got my stuff? And then get to transition. Yeah, get on the bike. The first 5 to 10 miles is, I think in my experience, the worst of it, if road condition wise, is the roughest part of the going out in St. Elmo. You got railroad tracks to go over, like 2 miles in,
if that,
even if that, maybe a mile and a half. Like, make sure your bottles are down, like especially your rear cages. Make sure you got something. You got tape. You got a rubber band with your bottle holder going over the top of your bottle, keeping everything down, because you'll see more people drop one of their main nutrition bottles at mile 1.5 or 2 miles going out, the hit over railroad tracks. Again, like we talked about on Monday, pay attention, because Ironman will do a great job of taping or spray painting the main cracks and divots and potholes in the course. So it's on you to deviate from those. You're going to be wet. You're going to be cold. You're probably going to be taking in nutrition, but pay attention and just really, really pay attention. In my opinion, like it's a great time to kind of relax, not be in a hurry, get your nutrition in, get your fueling in, get ahead of the game, and kind of treat that as treat your warm up before you get to the lollipop portion. Like, treat the first part as your nice little warm up. Make sure I got everything. Make sure I'm feeling okay. Kind of do a few systems checks. But once you get out to the main part of the course, then you're like, okay, now I can kind of start executing my game plan and getting to work, because you won't gain a crap ton of time on the first 5 to 10 miles, but you might make some mistakes that you're going to pay for later on in the day.
That's a good point. I've been thinking about this because I rode that loop probably 3 times this year and had not the best days.
Yeah, you said none of them were your best days.
So I was, what you just said about that first 10 miles, and that's what actually has kind of calmed me down a little bit, is that, getting out of the swim, working in the swim, getting warmed up and wake, and then having 10 miles before I get to the stick, because we went out and rode at ungodly, ridiculous early hours, and I drive out there in the dark. I'm not even awake, maybe more than 20 minutes, and I get on the bike, and the next thing I'm climbing rolling hills, and I'm wondering why I'm not ready to roll, but that's just not my game. But I'm hoping that 10 miles really pays dividends.
It's going to wake you up. The swim's going to wake you up for anything.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's like I keep looking at it going, man, how am I going to ride this any better than I've been riding it? But, I mean, the reality is literally I don't eat breakfast probably half those times, and I go out there and I just jump out of my car into my cleats, and I'm on my bike 2 minutes later, and then I'm riding hills. So it's not the best recipe.
You're like Kobe. You need a nice lather. You show up to the hardest workout of the day is usually the one before the game starts. You have to get a nice little lather, get a good sweat going, then you're ready to rock. You can't be shut out of bed.
I'm banking on it.
What are your biggest tips about the race course? I think it's a beautiful course. It is going to be green, and it's going to be, the sun will be coming up. You guys will be in you'll be loving every minute. That's some of the biggest feedback we got from the camp we had was
they love the course.
They absolutely loved it. And I will say, yes, it's 4 extra miles on the bike, but they did it for a reason. They picked a absolutely beautiful part of Tennessee and Georgia to ride through, It's not flat. I'd say I'd call it rolling with some solid pinchers in there. The reason I like the course as an athlete, and I know you do as well, is because I feel like the rollers and the pinchers come at just the right time to because I don't want to be an aero for 5 hours. I like to sit up for a reason, right? I want to be on a course you know what? Sitting up is right because I'm climbing hill, not because I'm tired of being an aero. And I feel like that's what this course offers. Outside of 1 or 2 turns, it's the opposite of Wisconsin that used to be Louisville, where you've got some long straightaways where you can pick up speed and you can be consistent. But it is a sneaky course, and even if you looking at the temps, it's going to be cooler, but it's still one of those where you kind of use the first stick, in my opinion, to kind of get your legs underneath you and just kind of establish the game plan, and then do a systems check, and then in my opinion, the first loop is when you figure out what game plan you're going to go with. Your A game plan, which is I feel ready to rock today. I'm ready to go. Let me do this. Game plan B, I'm not feeling it yet. I might hear it a little bit, so I'm gonna rein it in. I'm gonna listen to my body. Or plan C is crap, I don't have it today. The best I can do is just hope I get it back on the run and see what happens. But a lot of people are gonna make their decision on their legs when 2 times. One, when they get out of the swim and they see a PR swim, they're like, I'm going to crush today. And then all they think about is continuing to beat their tri-calc time they've estimated, or the first 5 miles of the bike coming out of town, they're like, I got it today. Let's rock and roll. Or they're going to say, I don't have it today. And that's going to dictate. You have to make these decisions every 5 miles. But I think this course allows you to do that because it's got so many, it doesn't have anything extreme, but it's got, in my opinion, it's got just enough variety to kind of keep you woke and to keep you kind of dialed in and focused.
Yeah, I agree. My thoughts on the course is that I feel like that first 10 miles is that until you get to the loop, and then maybe the first chunk of that loop is pretty good, and then it hits some pretty rough roads for a while and some rollers and stuff like that. And some of those hills, I've ridden that loop like I said 3 or 4 times this summer, and I usually get about 2,200 elevation per loop. So you're talking, 4,000 feet maybe roughly on the course, and everybody thinks it's flat. My thing is always just do not underestimate it, because like you said, there's a lot of rollers. Some of them aren't the easiest, and I've had trouble with that. And then there's some of those pinchers that just come out of nowhere. So you got that first 25-ish miles of the loop, which is pretty rolling, and then on the backside it's a lot faster, but that's you'll hit those unsuspecting pinchers when you least expect, and when you least want it, I guess. And they're out there. And then you have that really long 3-mile climb out of Chickamauga. That's it's just one of those things. It's not brutal, but it's just constant, and I don't think it's the worst part of the course. I think the last climb before you hit the turnaround is probably the toughest, standalone hill. But that coming out of Chickamauga is a long, kind of like grinder for 3 miles or so, and it's not the best roads, and it's just kind of like that tweener sort of climb for on and on and on, and then you hit that screamer of a downhill right afterwards. That's nice, and then you go back out and start the loop again. Mm-hmm. So
you lose a little bit of speed on that one, but there's you should, in my opinion, you should approach this course in a way where you think, you know what, I think I've got a pretty decent shot of making my last and my second to last bike splits my fastest of the day. From a pacing standpoint and from a course layout standpoint, if you pace it correctly, your first split and your last split should be even, or your last split should be your fastest. You'll lose a little bit of speed, or maybe your second to last, because you lose a little bit of speed because of the extra turns coming back in from the bike and the road's a little bit rougher. And that coming in on St. That's one of the things I always tell athletes to really, really, really pay attention to on all courses, not just this one, is that the last 10 miles of the bike, your mind starts to wander. You're like, all right, you're already placing yourself on the run. You're like, all right, I'm going through transition. I'm doing this. I'm almost off the bike. My time's really good. I got to hold this. Bam. Lose a bottle, hit a pothole, maybe hit a flat tire, because you're not paying attention anymore. You've gone, your mind has wandered, and also you're tired. No matter how fit you are, you are ready to get off that damn bike. At that point, you are just ready. You're tired. You're probably not going to hold as much of a line. Your upper body might be tired. You're going to be weaving a little bit more. You're not going to be holding your lines. You might hit a pothole here, might another crack here. The road's a little bit jarring. You're like, gosh, like I needed like a break. Like I'd all pick like, you know, it's the equivalent of like having you want headwind first or tailwind first. I'll take headwind first and tailwind the way home. And that's the same thing with road pavement. So just really be aware of those last 10 miles coming back into town. There's the same one in the way out. You'll know what to expect, but stay alert and don't mentally get off the bike until you're off the bike.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that. They don't take in their nutrition. I always recommend the last mile or two of any bike course, 70.3 or full, is maybe increase your cadence a little bit more, because that's more like the cadence you're going to have when you hop off the bike and you start running. Most people's run cadence is a lot faster than their normal bike cadence. That always helps me come off the bike and not so much have those wobbly kind of, you know, off legs. But come back into town, you be coming down consider it a downhill, but it's a decline coming back into transition to the bike end. And that's where I'll be this year, judging people and saying, burnt, blues load, ready to rock. By seeing how people come off the bike.
Now you know I'm going to fake it.
You're going to put on like you're going to win an Oscar. Look, oh, this is good to go. Come back in, same transition area. And then you'll run out. You'll come up a little bit and then head back out to, this is a run course. It is a run race with the bikes, with a swim warm up, a steady bike, and then an absolute run course. But to me, if you're going to ace this course, it's going to have the day that you really want to. It's going to be on the run course.
I agree, man. It's not a fast run course, so I don't think you're going to necessarily go out and PR your run, but you can really, you know, destroy your run easily on this baby. So that to me is kind of the thing. I keep looking for ways to make time on this course, and it's just not out there really. I mean, as far as an Ironman course, I mean, it's a pretty tough run course. There's just a lot of climbing, and then, you know, there are descents, but again, that's your quad burner.
Yeah, they hurt. They're not, you know, you come out of transition, you only do that one hill, you know, doing that first hill once, thankfully. You know, depending on what your game plan is for the day and
don't break your race on that hill
exactly, dude. Like, you know, we always yell at people, slow down, like take it easy. Because what you see so many times people on hills do is they run so hard to the top and they have to like walk the first part of the downhill. I'm like, no, like take that uphill first that you come out of transition on, you go up under the market and pedestrian bridge. Easy does it. Like, you need to relax. You need to get your fuel, get your legs underneath. You're gonna be so happy to be off the bike. You're gonna be so happy to see supporters or teammates and other people. You're going to be flying. You're gonna be like doing 7.5 minute miles going up straight up a hill, and you're gonna get to the top and you're like, crap. Not even a mile in, you're like, man, I'm toast. That was way too hard. And then you got to calm yourself as you hop off and make the short turn and hop on Amnicola Highway for a I consider it the loneliest part of the course. Because there is very little spectatorship out there on that very, very long straightaway you've got.
It goes forever, man. I drove out to the dam. I feel like it almost goes to the dam.
It does.
Like I drove all the way out there. If you're going out to look at it and driving that highway and trying to figure out where the turn is,
like, where the hell is that Burger King? Where's that Burger King, dude? I feel like it should be here already.
Yeah, it's a ways, man. Like, it's way past the boathouse. You know?
Oh, for sure.
Like, I drove by and I'm like, I think it's right up here. And I'm like, I kind of daydreamed for a while, and I'm like, where was that thing? And
did I pass it? And
you're like, no. Still didn't pass it.
Yeah. It reminds me of that very long straightaway at Louisville, where you make that turn and you're like, all the way there? Like, it seems like, because you can see it in Louisville, but it was like, oh, that seems like a long straight shot of no turns, no nothing, and you can see it in the yes, it is a long straightaway. And it's got flats, it's got false flats, it's got some rollers. To me, this is very similar to the first 10 miles of the bike, where you're just kind of getting warmed up. You're kind of figuring out what you got. If you're under-fueled, start topping things off. If you're over-fueled, start taking in just water. If you feel like you need a caffeine pick-me-up, get your caffeine pick-me-up. But it's a straight shot, which again, like it's got false flats and rollers. But I also consider it a fairly fast part of the course because it's a straight shot. There is no turns. There's no slowing down. It's probably what, 3 miles straight with no turns, maybe even a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
And so that's
no shade.
And no shade. Yeah. So it can be windy. If it's windy that day, there's just no hiding from anything. The sun will be out. And you know how it is, like, no matter what, if it's 80, it's going to feel like 85, which is still warm, right? To not
That's
have any
thing. Yeah.
It's going to be, let's say the high is 79, 80. By 2 o'clock, it's going to be 80, but it's going to feels like 85, which is hot, right? So you got to pay attention to that, especially on the bike. It's going to feel cool on the bike, but it's no matter what the high ends up being, it's still going to be the hottest part of the day. And it's going to be warm. And you're right, on that stretch, there is nowhere to hide. It is just straight concrete highway, and then you all the way to the Burger King and take a left and take like an almost immediate left back on the Greenway. That we do have a little bit of reprieve, a little bit of sunshine, and it is another straight shot. But it's flat right there, flats with a couple little rollers on the Greenway. And so you pop out by the tennis courts and go up, Battery, which is a solid pincher coming off there. It is you will see, I'd probably say 80% of the people walking it, even in the first loop, because it's short. It's steep. It's nasty. To a certain degree, it's a different kind of hill than running up Barton. Because Barton, I think it's steep, but you can kind of get in a groove. Like, it's not that steep to where you feel like you're like almost like fast run walking up it. Battery is that. Would I be faster walking up this and like taking long trips, keep my heart rate down? Because when you pop off a Battery, you hit Vietnam's Veteran Bridge, and you take a right, and you do have kind of a downhill straightaway for a while to be able to really run it. But if you're gassed at the top of Battery and you have to basically slow yourself down, you're not doing yourself any favors.
Yeah. I mean, Battery flattens out too a little bit for a while, and then you kind of go down that thing and go up the bridge, and then there's a nice, really almost a perfect grade downhill that you can kind of pick things up. But I want to point out too, because I run that course or that area a lot. When you're coming off the Greenway and before you hit Battery, there's a little pincher on that Greenway that I just think people need to be aware of, because I notice it every time. It's right after that football field. You kind of curl around a corner and you go up this, and people, that's no big deal if you're walking it or whatever, you don't even notice it, but it's there, and then all of a sudden you got to hit Battery right after.
It's because it's windy, because you can't see it for it. You can wind around the backside of the tennis courts or whatever,
and especially after all that flat, and then you just kind of hit that, and it just always seems to kind of stick me a little bit, and then you got to come out of it, and then you go up Battery. So I'm just saying, be aware of that.
Yeah, you do pop out as soon as you see, when you're on the Greenway. Once you see the football field on the left, then it's time, isn't that right? You see the football field on the left, then it's time for you to kind of anticipate. You take a left turn, and it kind of winds its way up. And again, it's usually got some boards on it too that aren't concrete. You kind of wind your way, but it's all an incline. It's like a slow incline up to street level, and then, like you said, you cross over the street, and then you look basically straight up on Battery, and you're like, shit, like this isn't going to feel very good.
Yeah.
And I'm only like 6.5, 7 miles in. You're like, all right. Then you come up, you hop on Veterans, and then to me, the backside of the course, this is where it makes or breaks a lot of people, and it breaks more than not, is you go up Veterans, you hit Barton, you go to the top of Barton, you get there, you make it, you're out of breath, it's a steady climb. It's not as long as people think it is, but then...
It's about 0.4 miles.
Yeah, but it's the downhill that I think eats people too, is like, because it's a long straight, not straight, it's got a curve to the left, but it's a long downhill. You get a little bit of reprieve once you get over to what's the street side called over there?
Hickson?
Yeah, Hickson Pike.
But then it's up.
Again. Yeah, the golf course loop is sneaky rollers, in my opinion.
Yeah. I meant like Hickson, though. When you hit the bottom of Barton, you kind of like in that little village, then it's just a slow grade all the way to this corner where you hit a pincher, turn right. Basically, once you get on Veterans, there's no more flats.
Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, you get off Veterans, come down the bottom, and once you start looking up at Barton, there's no more flats.
Nothing. Even on that backside. I mean, you're either kind of going downhill fast. There's some grades, nice grades by the golf course. That's a pretty good run grade where you can pick up a little speed and feel pretty good. And then you get by that tennis court. I guess there's like a block or two that's flat.
It's barely a block where you take your left, right, going back up back up the backside of Barton.
Yeah, and then you go into the North Shore, and then the bridge. I mean, there's really no flats on that once you get on that Veterans Bridge.
No, and that's the hard part about it, is there's no long, real straightaways, in my opinion, on the run course, especially in the backside where you can catch your breath. because you're going like on the return loop, you're coming back up Barton. So you're going to be going up zone 2, zone 3, probably trying to catch your breath. It's hard to catch your breath on the downhill because, coming back over Barton, coming back on the North Shore, it's a downhill basically till you hit the mouth of the pedestrian bridge. So, but you're going down, you're moving at a pretty good clip. You don't want to waste that by slowing yourself down. So you're kind of out of breath. And then you take a left on pedestrian bridge and you're like, okay, if you've never done it before, you're like, all right, it's a bridge. I go up one side, I go down the other side. Well, that's not how the pedestrian bridge works. You go up this side of the pedestrian bridge. It's wooden. Definitely make sure you pick your feet up. But you get to the top of it, which takes forever, it seems like, on the first loop. And then it's just flat. There is no downhill. It's flat. It brings you through the end of the pedestrian bridge, which is around 12.5-ish. And then you'll see the ice cream show, best ice cream place in town. You'll see a lot of people cheering right there. And that's also right where you have a special needs bag. And that's when you'll go left to start your second loop, or you'll take a hard left to go back towards the finish line. But it is no downhill. And then you go right back on Amnicola Highway, where it will be hotter than it was the first time you came around. And we always seem to get some late afternoon wind here. And I think that'll be present on racing, no matter how cool it is. It might feel good, it might not be, but it'll be a hotter part of the day. And that's when, listen, if you see yourself running all the way to the end of the pedestrian bridge on the first loop, you're already doing better than half the people in the course. If you can make it to Vietnam Veterans Bridge on the return loop, and you've gone through probably 16 miles, 17 miles, you're doing better than, and you run the whole thing, you're doing better than 70-80% of the people in the course. If you can make it to the golf course and you haven't walked yet, don't you dare walk. Make it home, baby. Make it home, because once you reach the backside of Barton on the return trip, you can start to hear people. You can start to see people. If it's nighttime, you can kind of look out and you can see the finish line lights and across the river. You come up with a pedestrian bridge, and it's kind of weird, because I will say that Chattanooga's finish line isn't one of my favorites. Because it's not best located, I think, where the loops end and start. It's just hard to get to. It's the pedestrian bridge serves as kind of like the beginning of your finisher chute. People are lined up. You're going to see a lot of family and friends and teammates, because it's so close to start the second loop. That's when you kind of know. But then you head downhill all the way to the finish line. And after doing a full, this from when I was yelling at you, 2 years ago, 7.3, it hurts to run downhill when your legs are that trash, but you're going to want to do it. Don't be on your heels, just be on your toes, get down to the finish line, enjoy it, soak it in, and enjoy finishing your best Ironman.
Yeah. Congratulations.
If
you're, if you have friends and family, just a quick note about the Run Spectator. Like you're saying, the pedestrian bridge is a great place to watch. Right there by the ice cream place, and Edwin Hotel is probably one of the best places to watch. And then what you can do is easily transfer yourself from there over to that Battery Hill area, which is another great place to watch. And you can also kind of peek through out on Amnicola Highway, because they run right next to each other, and there's little entryways that you can kind of just see them going that way. There's all kinds of different ways, but those to me are the best places to watch. You can go to the North Shore and check out some of the hills, and you can probably walk alongside of people over the Veterans Bridge if you want. But for the most part, the center piece, I think, is right there at the end of the walking bridge and right by Edwin Hotel. And it's just easy to, pick up your people back and forth between Battery and there.
It's one of the most spectator friendly courses. It's easily accessible for a lot of the most important parts of the course. It does get a little bit lonely on the highway. It does a little bit lonely on the backside of Barton. There's not many people going on over there, unless you got the rich folks on the golf course hanging out, having some, Arnold Palmer's with some vodka in it, cheering people on. And
there's a few.
There's definitely a few over there. But it's a wonderful course. The weather looks fantastic, and we are very excited to have everybody come into town for what's going to be a fantastic weekend.
Couldn't agree more, man.
Could not agree more.
Come
see us. We definitely won't cast next Monday. We'll both be recuperating, me from spectating and Mike from racing. We'll definitely see you next week. We hope to see you this weekend. If you're spectating or coming to, be a Sherpa, or you're coming in racing, come by and see us on Friday at the Hub. And we'll hope to see you around town Saturday and Sunday. I'll be on the course cheering. If you see me, I'll make sure to say hi. I'll give you a big high five, and then hand sanitize immediately after. If you haven't been or want to go back, go to our website. We're at C26Triathlon.com. That's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you're looking for a coach and it's your year is over, or you just had a race and you want to get better next year, want somebody to take the stress off your plate, check out our coaches tab. We got a lot of awesome coaches with some availability, so check those out, see who has the best fit for you, and reach out. I think we have a few spots open for some of our camps, and most of them are sold out, I think, for next year already. Then if you have any questions at all for Mike specifically, he is at crushingiron@gmail.com. And if you have anything for me specifically, I am at C26coach@gmail.com.
All right, man, I got a race to mentally prepare for.
And before I forget, we will have a lot of gear coming today. So if you want gear, coffee mugs, travel mugs, definitely come by on Friday, get some swag, support us. We don't do, pay to play podcasts, but the best way you can support us is to buy some of our awesome gear with the logo. Support the podcast, support us, and have some comfy, good looking gear.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
And see you next week.
Yeah. See you, man.